On August 23, 2010, the quiet neighbourhood of Pimlico, London, became the centre of a baffling mystery. Police officers were called to a top-floor flat on Alderney Street. They had been alerted by colleagues of the flat's occupant, who had not been seen for several days. After gaining entry, they found a scene that would confound investigators for over a decade. In the bathtub of the main ensuite bathroom, they discovered a large red North Face sports bag. The bag was zipped shut. More strangely, it was secured from the outside with a padlock. The keys to that padlock were found inside the bag, lying underneath the body it contained. The body belonged to Gareth Williams, a 31-year-old mathematician and codebreaker. He was an employee of GCHQ, the UK's Signals Intelligence Agency, on secondment to the Secret Intelligence Service MI6. The discovery was shocking not just for its location, but for its circumstances. The flat was secure and there were no signs of forced entry. The bathroom door was locked from the outside. Neighbours reported hearing nothing unusual in the days leading up to the discovery. Initial police reports noted the pristine condition of the flat, which seemed undisturbed. The scene was eerily clean, almost as if it had been staged, leaving more questions than answers from the very first moments of the investigation. One of the most concerning details to emerge early on was the significant delay before Williams was reported missing. He had been due back at work after a period of leave, but failed to show up. It took a full week for his colleagues at MI6 to raise the alarm. This 7-day gap became a focal point for public concern and media speculation. What happened during that lost week? Why did an organisation known for its meticulous attention to detail wait so long to check on one of its own? This delay raised immediate suspicions that something was being hidden, and it cast a long shadow over the entire investigation that was to follow. The initial facts were stark and deeply puzzling. A brilliant codebreaker working for one of the world's most secretive organisations was found dead under impossible circumstances. His body was locked inside a bag in a locked bathroom, inside a secure flat. The heating in the apartment had been left on high, accelerating the decomposition of the body and making it difficult to establish a precise time of death. From the outset, the case presented a dichotomy that would define its legacy. A set of facts that pointed towards a bizarre self-inflicted accident, and a context that screamed of foul play at the highest levels of international espionage. The official investigation into Gareth Williams' death quickly diverged into two competing narratives. The first, and the one eventually favoured by the police, was that his death was a tragic accident. Investigators theorized that Williams, perhaps engaging in some form of escapology or claustrophilia, had locked himself inside the bag and had been unable to get out. They pointed to the lack of any unidentified DNA at the scene. No fingerprints or genetic material belonging to a third party were found on the padlock, on the zipper, or on the bathtub itself. This absence of forensic evidence, they argued, made the involvement of an unknown assailant highly unlikely. However, this explanation was met with widespread skepticism, not least from Williams's own family. Many found it impossible to believe that a man, even one as athletic as Gareth, could have contorted himself into the small bag, zipped it up from the outside, and then padlocked it shut. Two separate escapology experts hired during the investigation attempted to replicate the feat hundreds of times. They failed on every single attempt. This practical impossibility fueled the second major theory, that Gareth Williams was the victim of an unlawful killing, a meticulously planned assassination carried out by professionals who knew how to cover their tracks. This essay will explore the deep divide between these two conflicting explanations. We will examine the evidence presented by both sides of the argument. On one hand, we will detail the official police conclusion and the forensic findings that led them to label the death an accident. This includes the analysis of the scene, toxicology reports, and the psychological profile constructed by investigators. We will look at why the authorities felt confident in ruling out foul play, despite the extraordinary circumstances. The narrative of a private act gone wrong became the simplest explanation for a scene devoid of clear evidence of a struggle or a third-party presence. On the other hand, we will delve into the persistent signs that point towards a more sinister conclusion. This includes the suspicious delay in reporting him missing, the alleged destruction of evidence, and the inherent improbability of the accident scenario. We will also consider recent developments, including the findings of a 2024 forensic review, which sought to finally answer some of the lingering questions. By comparing these contrasting views, we can better understand why the death of Gareth Williams remains one of the most compelling and unresolved mysteries of modern British history, a locked-room puzzle that continues to defy a simple solution. Gareth Williams was, by all accounts, an exceptional individual from a very young age. Born in 1978 in Valley Anglesey, Wales, he demonstrated a remarkable aptitude for mathematics early on. He was a quiet but brilliant student, excelling academically and completing his A-levels at the age of 16. His intellectual prowess led him to Bangor University, where he achieved a first-class degree in mathematics at just 17. He went on to complete a PhD at the University of Manchester, further cementing his reputation as a prodigy in the world of numbers and complex problem-solving. It was this rare talent that would ultimately lead him into one of the most secretive professions in the world. After completing his doctorate, Williams was recruited by the Government Communications Headquarters, or GCHQ, in Cheltenham. This organisation is the United Kingdom's primary signals intelligence agency, responsible for monitoring, intercepting and deciphering electronic communications from around the globe. Williams thrived in this environment. His role was that of a codebreaker, a modern-day Alan Turing tasked with cracking complex encryption systems used by foreign governments, terrorist cells and criminal networks. His work was highly sensitive and of immense value to national security. Colleagues described him as a dedicated and scrupulous professional, a private person who was deeply committed to his work. The nature of his job meant that Williams operated in a world of profound secrecy. The details of his specific projects were and remain classified. He was entrusted with information that could, if it fell into the wrong hands, have severe consequences for UK intelligence operations and the safety of its agents. This high-stakes environment required absolute discretion. It was a life lived in the shadows, where one's work could not be discussed with friends or family. This professional isolation was a standard part of the job, a necessary burden for those working at the sharp end of national security. Williams was known to be a private but not reclusive man. He was an avid cyclist. He was also passionate about the arts, with a keen interest in fashion, particularly expensive women's shoes, a detail that would later be scrutinized intensely by the media. Those who knew him painted a picture of a complex individual, a genius-level mathematician with a quiet demeanor, yet also someone with a zest for life and personal interests that went beyond his demanding job. He was a man with a brilliant mind, a unique personality, and a career that placed him at the very heart of the United Kingdom's intelligence apparatus. Due to the highly sensitive nature of his employment, much of Gareth Williams's professional life is shrouded in secrecy. As a GCHQ employee on secondment to the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, he was involved in operations at the highest level of national security. His work likely involved developing sophisticated encryption methods and breaking sophisticated encryption methods. This role would have given him access to classified information concerning ongoing counterterrorism operations, foreign espionage activities, and sensitive diplomatic communications. The very essence of his job was to know things that others could not, and to keep that knowledge secure at all costs. This level of secrecy naturally extended to his personal life. Colleagues recalled him as quiet, intensely private, well-liked, but he kept a professional distance. This separation would later complicate the investigation into his death, as few people had a complete picture of the man and the pressures he might have been under. Public disclosure about his specific work has been severely limited by the UK government, citing national security concerns. During the inquest into his death, intelligence officials provided testimony from behind screens, and their identities were kept anonymous. Key details about the projects Williams was working on before his death were redacted from public records. It was revealed that he had just returned from a trip to the United States, where he had attended a conference, but the purpose and content of that conference remained classified. This official wall of silence has been a major source of frustration for both his family and the public, fueling speculation about what he was involved in. The lack of transparency inevitably led investigators and the media to consider espionage as a possible factor in his death. A man with his level of access to state secrets would have been a prime target for foreign intelligence agencies. Was he a victim of a targeted assassination by a hostile state seeking to silence him or steal the information he possessed? This theory was not just the stuff of spy novels. It was a legitimate line of inquiry, given his profession. The context of his employment automatically elevated the case from a standard police matter to one with potential international implications, making every detail and every missing piece of information subject to intense scrutiny. Following an extensive investigation, the Metropolitan Police ultimately concluded that Gareth Williams's death was most likely an accident. This conclusion was reached after a painstaking forensic examination of the scene and a comprehensive review of the available evidence. The official timeline established that Williams was last seen alive on August 15, 2010, a full 8 days before his body was discovered. During this period, his mobile phone data and financial records showed no activity. The police theory posited that at some point during this time, Williams had voluntarily entered the sports bag for reasons unknown and became trapped. In 2013, the Metropolitan Police announced that they believed it was more probable that there was no other person present when Gareth died. This statement effectively closed the active murder investigation, reclassifying the death as unascertained but likely accidental. This conclusion stood in stark contrast to the initial coroner's ruling, which had deemed his death an unlawful killing. The police felt the complete lack of forensic traces pointing to a third party was a more compelling argument. The most significant challenge to the accident theory is the sheer physical impossibility of the act itself. During the 2012 coroner's inquest, this was put to the test. 2 experienced escapologists were hired to try. They made over 300 attempts under controlled conditions. They failed every single time. That practical evidence supports coroner Dr. Fiona Wilcox's conclusion. She said she was satisfied Williams was unlawfully killed. The calm scene suggested he was unconscious or already dead when placed in the bag. That contradicts the accident theory, which requires him to be alive and conscious to lock himself in. One of the most suspicious elements of the entire case is the 9-day delay between when Gareth Williams was last seen alive and when his body was discovered. For an organisation that tracks global communications and prides itself on meticulous detail, losing track of one of its own operatives for a week seemed incomprehensible. This delay fueled speculation that MI6 may have conducted its own clean-up of the flat before the police arrived. The unlawful killing theory coalesces around a professional targeted assassination. Proponents argue only professionals could have bypassed the flat's security without a trace, subdued a fit man with no struggle, and cleaned the scene to a forensic standard. The use of poison has also been considered. He may have been incapacitated with a fast-acting, untraceable poison or a nerve agent before being placed in the bag. Given Gareth Williams's role as a codebreaker, a potential Russian connection has received sustained attention. Williams was reportedly an expert on Russian intelligence and its methods of laundering money through European financial markets. This theory gained momentum due to parallels with other suspicious deaths in Britain, most notably the 2006 poisoning of Alexander Litvinenko. Some intelligence agencies are known to make a murder look like a suicide or a strange accident, muddying investigations and avoiding attribution. Crucially, no concrete evidence has ever been publicly presented to substantiate a Russian link. It stays speculation. In response to this enduring interest, the Metropolitan Police initiated a new forensic review in early 2024. The review's results brought more frustration than clarity. Despite applying the latest methods, authorities found no new DNA evidence. Key items were retested with painstaking precision: the North Face bag, the padlock, the zipper, the key. Once again, only Gareth Williams's DNA was found on those surfaces. The announcement sparked heavy press coverage and divided public and expert reactions. Others disagreed. Experts argued the 2024 review changed very little, and absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The review didn't solve the mystery. It confirmed how hard it is to investigate a crime by espionage professionals. The death of Gareth Williams remains one of the most profound and unsettling mysteries in modern British history, a real-life locked-room puzzle that continues to defy a simple solution. On one side stands the official conclusion, a tragic and inexplicable accident. On the other is the persistent and widely held belief that Williams was the victim of an unlawful killing. The case, therefore, remains perfectly balanced on a knife's edge, caught between an unbelievable accident and an unprovable crime. How could a fit, athletic man lock himself inside a bag in such a way? Why did MI6 wait a full week to report him missing? What sensitive information was contained on the memory sticks? The official secrecy that envelops the world of intelligence is a key reason why the case remains so captivating. The human story behind the perplexing headlines is another reason for its lasting impact. He was a son and a brother, a prodigiously talented individual whose life was cut short. Until the day that official records are unsealed or a key witness comes forward, the truth of what happened in that Pimlico flat will remain locked away, as securely as the padlock on that red sports bag. The questions linger. ensuring that the ghost of Gareth Williams will continue to haunt the corridors of British intelligence for many years to come.